Okay, so today's tomato review is going to be on the Henderson's Pink Ponderosa tomato. Alright, so I just recently did a video. I don't know if you'll see it yet because I'm not uploading these videos in order. But I just did a video on the regular Ponderosa red tomato. Well, there's also another version of that called the Henderson's Pink Ponderosa tomato, and this is the pink version. So let's take a closer look at the inside of the pink Ponderosa. And as you can see, it's got multiple chambers all the way around. Seeds are firmly attached to the rind. You can see the wilding in the tomato. Some of that might be because that's not the top, that's the actual bottom, but you seem to get this nipple on the bottom with these tomatoes. This little navel, whatever you want to call that little navel thing. So that might cause some of that, greenness in there. But yeah, you could definitely see wilding in the rind. In this particular tomato, it actually looks to be very thin rind on it, which is kind of strange. Normally tomatoes, you don't see the rind so thin like that. Okay, so let's give you a nice view of it that way. Here, I'll show you the other side. Give you a nice view like that. And look at the way the chambers are. There's all these little chambers all the way around it, almost like the way a pomegranate would look like on the inside of a pomegranate. It's just a gorgeous looking tomato all the way around. Now, I do see some areas over here that may have not fully ripened on this particular tomato, but you can see the centers are generally a pretty thick mass on the middle. I'll cut that other one open too as well. We'll cut the big one open and see what it looks like in there, but it should be pretty much the same. Yeah, you can see the seeds are firmly attached to the rind. Let's give it a bite. I'm dying to try this thing. Wow, that's a wonderful tomato. I'm going to hold on to the top. So usually when I taste this, I do the bottom, because I squeeze the seeds out of the top part and save the seed from that. Usually I eat the whole bottom. But yeah, that's a delicious tomato. Wow, awesome. Tangy wise, right out the gate, I'm going to say 30, 35 on the tangy. Sweetness right out the gate, I'm going to say 30 on the sweetness. It's a little more tangy than sweet, but it works together pretty well. It's not a citrusy, lip puckering type of tang. It's pretty much a nice tomato tang. It works well with it. It's not going to make you pucker up. I've had tomatoes that were so tangy you literally pucker when you eat them, like eating a lemon. I mean, way too tangy. But this tomato has a nice balance between the two in general. It might be a little more tangy than to be perfect, but this is a nice all-around tomato altogether between the balance of it. Now, in between that, you got the watery part. It's kind of watery, which is nice. That's a nice snacking tomato. Goes good in salads. Go good in making sauce. It's going to make you a watery sauce. You might need to cook it down a little. But if you don't want to cook it down, you always add a little paste to the sauce if you don't feel like cooking it down. I know that you're adding store-bought paste to homemade tomato sauce. Sometimes you got to compromise. Unless you're willing to make your own tomato paste. And that, believe me when I tell you, that's not a chore you want to take on. Trust me on that one. But that flavor, and then after the tanginess goes to the back of your tongue, you get a nice tomato taste follow up behind it. It's a very, very beautiful tomato taste. Wow. This is definitely going to be ranking up there, possibly even number one. I want to finish this and then I'll tell you my ultimate rank in the end. But let's take another bite off of that. It's superb. It's got a superb flavor. It's very unique because that tanginess is a little more than the sweet, but that tanginess really delivers that tomato flavor nicely. And then it kind of stays in your palate for a little bit. It makes you salivate a little, you know, you salivate from it. And then it just works. The flavor of this thing is incredible. This is a very nice beefsteak type tomato. Now, I do want to mention that most of these tomatoes are going to generally be like this. They're going to be a flat type of tomato. Here's a couple of green ones that fell. You see how they're kind of like flat? Like a, I don't know what you call that, but it's flat like. That's the way this tomato shape is. It's kind of, it's a beefsteak tomato, but it's flat like. It has a very unique kind of flatness to it, and then beefs out. Now this is like a 1 pound, maybe a 1.5 pound tomato right here. This one right here is flat, as you can see. And these will get much bigger than this. These tomatoes can get 2 pounds, 3 pounds easy off of this. You got a good healthy plant, you're going to get a 2 or 3 pound tomato out of that. But I'm going to put a little salt on this and see what it tastes like with the salt. Wow. This tomato by itself is the kind of tomato you want to quarter it up or cut it into like 8 pieces. Or, you know, a big tomato, you cut it into smaller pieces. And just sprinkle it with salt. Maybe a tiny drop of olive oil on the bottom so you can let it get on the tomato a little. Superb eating tomato right here. This tomato right here, I'm going to rate this tomato as a #1. It's that good of a tomato. Delicious. You put salt on it, it really brings the flavor out. A very deep, rich flavor. Incredible. That's an excellent beefsteak tomato. It's one of my favorite beefsteak tomatoes. Now, when I say #1, #1 can't really be justified as an overall #1. I mean #1, when I say #1, I'm meaning #1 like it's this year, it's all the way up at a #1 level, and then I may categorize that down into, you know, for beefsteak tomatoes, you got the ultimate #1, and then for cherry tomatoes and plum tomatoes, you got the ultimate #1. But in the beefsteak range, these big, giant tomatoes, this one's up there at #1. A delicious flavor. Highly recommend the Henderson's pink Ponderosa tomato. Absolutely wonderful tomato. But if you've never seen it, if you've never heard of this tomato before, you can give this one a try if you're looking for a beefsteak tomato. It's a pink tomato, so if you're looking for a red tomato, so you can get a rich red sauce or something like that, there is a Ponderosa red, you want to just get that one. But if you're looking for a pink tomato, this one would be the alternative to it. I also want to point out too with this pink Ponderosas is that you will see this kind of blushing on the top of it, on the shoulders. You will see that with this tomato. It's a very unique characteristic to this tomato. So that's one of the things you want to look for to make sure that you are getting a Ponderosa. But yeah, this is #1 for a beefsteak tomato. This is definitely ranked up very high. Absolutely delicious tomato. I'm going to finish those. I guess you want to see what the inside of this looks like, right? That's why you come to these videos. Slice those tomatoes open. We're going to eat them anyway, so. A little bit of diffusion there. Now look at the inside of that. Look at that amazing inside of tomato. Tell me that is not an absolutely gorgeous beefsteak tomato, other than that little spot, which I'm not sure if that's a bug bite or what happened there. Other than that, tell me that's not an absolutely gorgeous tomato. Look at that. That is like a perfect sauce tomato. That's a perfect hamburger tomato. That's a perfect salad tomato. I mean, you could feed a lot of people with this tomato. I'm going to have a hard time actually eating it. I got to get the seeds out of it, though. But look at this. See all the meat in the middle of that thing? That's a lot. That's a very thick sauce. And this tomato is not a dry tomato. This tomato is very moist and juicy, and it meets all those standards for a tomato lover. This meets those standards where you just absolutely have to love this tomato. So anyway, that's my review for the pink, Henderson's pink Ponderosa tomato, and I rated it #1 this year. And if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.